humiliated ourselves. كنا قوم أذلاء. We were nothing. And Allah granted dignity for us by His religion, by His teaching. And when we are seeking dignity outside that, Allah will humiliate us. Which basically, the source of our dignity is Islam. That's how we have kind of a respect for ourselves. So if we lose that, then we go back to score zero, and even worse. And actually, in another statement of Umar, he said, تنقضي عرى الإسلام عروة بعد عروة إذا نشأ في الإسلام من لا يعرف أمر الجاهلية. The pillars of Islam and the most important teaching of Islam were gone one after one when the people grow up in Islam without knowing the past days, without knowing what the people used to do before Islam. And why is that? Because nowadays people going back to those days of Jahiliyyah. They lost the teaching of Islam, and even they lost some of even ethics and akhlaq of Jahiliyyah. Because when Islam came, He came to discipline them with the high morals. They have akhlaq, they have morals. That's why the Prophet said, I have sent إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. I was sent to perfect the manners. So they do have manners, but they lack of discipline, and they need pure teaching. So if we grow in Islam without even knowing why Islam came for, we might actually go back to those mistakes for the people that are doing before Islam. And that's what's happening for many of us. May Allah protect us. And that famous statement of Umar, he said it on that day when they went to Sham, and Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah was in his company. So they passed in front of a pond, or just a small lake, where Sayyidina Umar took off from his camel, and he took off his shoes and he put it around his neck, and then he grabbed his camel crossing that water. So Abu Ubaidah kind of felt shame. He said, oh, about of those people that are watching us. So he meant they might look down at us by you as the head of the government doing this. Umar turned to him and he said, I wished if somebody else had said it. Not you, Abu Ubaidah. Yes, we were nothing. قوم أذلاء. We have no position, no name, no dignity. And Allah honored us by Islam. And if we are seeking any other source of honor, Allah will humiliate us. So the source of our honor and dignity is Islam. And that's a question now we ask ourselves and our new generations. Are we proud of our deen? Or we have internal defeat that's even worse than the actual defeat. One of the enemies that against us is our own soul. We are controlling that, and we feel the honor, or we are feeling that they are down. Because that's one of the worst things that could attack the heart, where you have fear that even standing up and declare your faith, and you speak loudly of your morals. People, they try to oppress us and not making us raising our voice and making Islam looks ugly. And they try to accuse Islam with many of the negative terms. And we have to know that's part of their game. And if we are not standing up for ourselves and feel the honor, then that would be the start of defeat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminded us, and He said, وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ. The dignity that was written for Allah and His messenger and for the believers, the true believers. And Allah revealed that verse recording an incident when the chief of hypocrite at that time in Medina, he said a bad word against Islam and against the Prophet ﷺ when he named himself the most honorable one and named the Prophet ﷺ in the opposite way. And his own son, as a true believer, stood up against him. And he held his sword against his father. Because what's more important for me, my deen, my religion, than any others. And he said, my father, you have to change your word. You have to withdraw your word. Otherwise, you're not going to enter. Otherwise, I'm going to stop you. So he enforced him to say the right word. And Allah revealed Quran about that. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَكِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. I'm saying these words today because I have conversation with some of our youth where you feel the lack of knowledge, and that led them to not that proud of their identity. We want to build the strong personality in them, but that starting of loving the deen and putting deen above any others. My dear brothers and sisters, we have to read the history and learn from the past. It's not just a story. It's a learning lessons. And the one has no roots will gain no fruits. The one has no past will have no future. So they have to read even the era before Islam, and then the history of Islam, and what even after. To know that when Muslims hold firmly on their religion, they thought the whole world. And they were agent of goodness. And what's happening nowadays, there's no main reason except that we are not among those that representing Islam as supposed to be. We are not in that form of strength as the Prophet ﷺ wants us to be. تركتكم على المحجة البيضاء لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. تركتكم على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, I left you on the mahajja bayda, in a pure and clean evidence and proofs that will give settlement to your heart, that where you can see the darkness as light not the opposite. You see everything in its reality. That's what he meant. And the one he will shift from it, he will be among halikeen. He will destroy himself and he will have no future. So it's very simple word. And that's very simple explanation for what we are facing nowadays. And maybe what we are facing nowadays, that as a kind of a test and a trials that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to bring us back. There's a funny story that the daughter of Hulaku was talking to one of the shuyukh in Iraq and said to him, you know, you are saying your religion above others and you are, you know, a great people, and Allah will never make the kafirin, the disbelievers, comes over the believers, the true believers. وَلَنَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ الْكَافِرِينَ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ السَّبِيلَ. So they have no way that they would defeat you. So what's going on? So he said to her, you know, if there's a shepherd and has number of sheep and they go scattered here and there, what's the simple things he would do to bring them back together? She said he will send a dog to collect them. I said, okay, you get it. So Allah send the dog for us and you are, you know, to bring us back together. So the trials and the problems that we are facing, it might be a call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to wake up, to go back to our deen. And remember what happened in the day of Uhud, when the believers, they have one time disobeyed the order of the Prophet ﷺ. 70 of Sahaba were killed at that day. So how many orders and how many commands of Allah and His messengers that nowadays people make fun of it. And they try to find excuses not to follow it. We know that nowadays people, they are praising the new civilization and they are talking highly of it. And they didn't know that the source of it, most of it, from the teaching of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was talking to one of, my student, and he was praising even the new systems about, for example, like a child benefit. I told him, you know who is the first one who started the child benefit? That was Umar radiallahu ta'ala an. And he was giving a child amount of money after breastfeeding. So when he became independent or starting eating. So maybe you're talking about not from birth, but when he will be around 2 years old. So one day when he was patrolling in the street of Medina, he heard baby crying. And when he asked, he get to know that his mother enforcing him to eat because his mother want to go in the morning to see Umar that the piece of bread in this hand of her baby, and he will start giving them the allowance. So Umar was start crying. And he was crying all night until came Fajr prayer and continued crying to the point that people, they couldn't even hear what he is reciting. And after Salah, he said, how many child you killed, O Umar? And he told him, from today and on, you will start giving babies by birth their amount of child support. From that time, they have, what we are proud of it nowadays. Do you know who established the compensation of hurting the feeling? what they call like emotion abuse, where there is a compensation of it. That started by our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When a man came to him, holding him from his neck, saying to him, give me back my money. And he came before the due time. And Umar was upset and he was about to kill him. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, "O Umar, was better for you to ask him to come with a polite way, and you ask me to give back his money if it's due. O Umar, give him his money back and give him extra because you scared him. Jaza'a ma rawwa'ta, because you scared him." Can you imagine? Give him extra. That a compensation for the emotional abuse, if let's say in the terms of nowadays. To be honest, what we feel proud of the new civilization and all of that, that Islamic product, and even what we are enjoying today is going back because of the Islamic civilization. I'm not here because of crying for the past or whatever. No, but we're saying when Muslims hold firmly in their deen, benefit humanity. And the only one solution, we are not fighting our enemies, outside enemies. We are fighting ourselves. That's the real enemies, ourselves, going back to the roots. Be proud of our deen. Hold firmly in our, morals. And we teach humanity at that time. The humanity, they will really accepted that because they have no choice as the past days. And we need to be proud of all of that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam the best and unite our heart together. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله الملك الحق المبين وأشهد أن سيدنا محمد رسول الله صادق الوعد الأمين اللهم صل وسلم عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين وتبعهم بإحسان يوم الدين وبعد. My dear brothers and sisters, we are not going back to the source of our teaching until we united ourselves and connected ourselves with the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the manufacturers of great men. This is the factory of a great people like the companion of the Prophet ﷺ. They graduated from mosque and then they spread the knowledge. Our ummah will never wake up until Fajr prayer would be like Jum'ah prayer. We're packed of musallin and their hearts attached to the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-masjidu baytu kulli taqi. Mosque is the house of every pious person. This is the solution. We need to connect our children and ourselves with the masajid. Especially in these days where they have time, and their summer, they go anywhere. There's nothing better than the masjid will protect them and teach them the morals. Let's, try to connect our heart and ourselves with the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's, the place where inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala united, ummah and reviving his deen. هذا واعلموا أن الله صلى على نبيكم وأمركم بالصلاة عليه فقال إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها مولاها مولانا رب العالمين. اللهم نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. اللهم لا تجعل لنا في مقامنا هذا وفي مجمعنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا عيبا إلا سترته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا كربا إلا نفسته، ولا دينا إلا قضيته، ولا مريضا إلا شفيته، ولا ميتا إلا رحمته، ولا ضالا إلا هديته، ولا مؤمنا إلا ثبته، ولا ظالما إلا قصمته أو رددته، ولا سائلا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا له فيها صلاح ولك فيها رضا إلا يسرتها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر من نصر الدين، اللهم عليك بالظالمين. آمين آمين آمين. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اذكروا الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Estão, state your lines, leave no gaps. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى، والذي قدر فهدى، والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى. سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله، إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى. ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى. سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى. بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى، صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.